Okay, moving along here in Galatians. I'm going to do Galatians chapter 2, verses 10 through 14. Starting in verse 10. Only they would that we should remember the poor, the same which I also was forward to do. Christians in this particular era were plundered of their goods, and they suffered severe social persecution for proclaiming the name of Christ. And Paul is encouraging these Galatians to give a hand to the less fortunate. He gives an example of this in 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Paul speaks to the saints at the church of Corinth to donate what they can if they're doing well in life and help these brothers and sisters out, as he told the Galatians to do. Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the churches of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God has prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. And when I come, whomsoever ye shall approve by your letters, them will I send to bring your liberality to Jerusalem. And if it be meet that I go also, they shall go with me. So, Paul's letting them know that it's a Christian trait to help the poor out, whether it be financially or the human condition, the poor in spirit, to have fellowship with them, to have church with them. Help them out. Help your brothers and sisters out. Verse 11. But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to his face, because he was to be blamed. Paul confronted Hebrew roots Peter here publicly because Peter's actions were public. And this is a blue-collar reproval that Paul's given Peter. He's not gossiping behind his back. He's not backbiting. Paul's not whispering to other people about what he's going to say or how he's going to correct Peter. Peter had an inconsistency. He had an inconsistency in his conduct. Let's find out what that inconsistency was. Verse 12. For before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. Who ate? Who did what eat? Peter. Peter ate with the Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. Peter shared a meal with the Gentile Christians and then pressed upon them the very customs of the Torah. Remember, Peter's ministry was to the circumcised. Paul's was to the uncircumcised. Peter played fast and loose with the law, and he went about breaking the God-ordained petition between Jew and Gentile in a haphazard way. And I call Peter Hebrew roots Peter here because the Sacred Names movement folk and the Hebrew roots movement today, they tell you that you've got to keep the law. Not have faith in Christ, but to follow the law, to keep the Levitical dietary laws, to be saved. Well, I can tell you, some of these Hebrew roots guys, if you see some of them on YouTube, they're eating more than lettuce and peanuts. But Peter here probably had some lamb chops, sat down and had something on a cloven hoof. But Peter the Jew was spreading the gospel, but he was talking to fellows that kept the law, and they were holding Peter to a standard of that as well. So that's why I call him Hebrew roots Peter. But he figures it all out. We'll go, as you read the Bible, you know that. Verse 13. And the other Jews disassembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation. Well, Peter's behavior was theologically inconsistent and hypocritical. And he influenced Jewish Christians, including Barnabas, and circumcision was an outward obedience to the Mosaic law. It was an outward obedience to it, and the circumcised Jew avoided the uncircumcised Gentile. And then here was Peter, mingling right with them. So let's go to Acts. Acts 10:28. This is Peter meeting with Cornelius. Acts 10:28. And he said unto them, Ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto of another nation? But God hath shewed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Okay. Verse 14. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all, If thou, being a Jew, livest after the manner of Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews? Peter knew the truth. Peter knew the truth, and Paul is questioning him, and how Peter, a Jew, can compel Gentiles to submit to non-essential Jewish religious manners, morals, and attitudes. The Pharisaic tradition forbids eating promiscuously, and Peter's role was to preach Christ and wean them from these traditions. Let's go to Galatians 1:6. We've already been through that, but again, I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel. Now, do you think that maybe Peter was preaching Christ, and it confused him that he then sat down with the Gentiles? Because Peter was slowly witnessing to the circumcised, and it kind of confused him a bit, because they were law keepers. And 1 Timothy 5:20. 5:20. Them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. So that's just a little verse to go along with Paul's rebuke to Peter. But it all works out in the end between the two of them. They're both preaching the gospel. They both had their hiccups along the way. And I'm going to do Galatians chapter 2, verses 15 and 16. Just those two verses next time. And do some reading in the Word that goes along with those two verses. And coming up, I'm going to do some videos on Christmas and the inspirations that the unbeliever has for Christmas, and then how the Christian celebrates Christmas and why. So we'll get going on those. Till next time.